このセッションを担当
I will be moderating this session. My name is Funatsu from Transcosmos, and we will be following on with the theme of education as well. And this session is dubbed Change the World, Global Leadership Education, the Theory and Practice of Innovative Leadership Education. And we will be focusing on the respective practices to nurture and cultivate global leadership. We do have two prominent panelists for the session. So without further ado, let me introduce from Green School founder, John Hardy. Please proceed to the stage. And next, I would like to call upon from International School of Asia, Karuizawa, founder and chair of the board, Ms. Lynn Kobayashi. Thank you very much. And now we have the two panelists on stage, and we would like to begin the panel session. So first and foremost, let me introduce the two panelists. So let me start off with Ms. Lynn Kobayashi. She is the chair of the board and founder of ISAC, or the International School of Asia, Karuizawa. In 1998, she graduated the School of Economics from Tokyo University. In 2005, she acquired her master's in education from Stanford University. From there onwards, she has joined many venture companies. And in the year 2006, she joined the UN Children's Fund, or UNICEF. Now, at UNICEF, she was residing in the Philippines, and she was focused on non-formal education for street children during her days at UNICEF. Now, through her experiences in the Philippines, she realized that, yes, it is important to educate the poor, but at the same time, for the society to change fundamentally, it would need more cultivation of leaders. And so this is when she decided to focus on creating a school to nurture leaders. And she returned to Japan in 2008 after 6 years of precise preparation. She, for the first time in Japan, established the International School of Japan in Asia, ISAC, as of August last year, and this is an all-residential high school. From 15 countries around the globe, 49 students have joined, and the school has begun. And from the snowy Karuizawa area, we have 7 students from the school ISAC. So where are you seated? If you could raise your hand, if you can acknowledge yourselves. Yes, so towards the center, towards the right, at least from where I can see you, yes. So thank you. And they want to learn from you, obviously, through the session. Now, in October of 2014, she has also been a member of the Council for the Implementation of Education Rebuilding, hosted by the Cabinet Secretariat. And so she is very active in the education world. And for this year as well, 2015, Nikkei Business selected her as the Woman of the Year 2015. So congratulations for that as well. Now I'd like to move on to our next panelist, John Hardy. Now, he is the founder of Green School Bali, and he graduated Ontario College of Art and Design, and at the age of 25, he found Bali, Indonesia. And he was inspired by the nature, the unique culture, and the traditional arts of Bali, and he decided to live in Bali from there onwards. He did establish the jewelry brand John Hardy, and this jewelry brand extended its arm to North America, Canada, Europe, and Asia, and it grew into a multi-national company. And he retired from this company, or exited from this company, should I say, in the year 2007. Now, there onwards, he encountered Al Gore's movie, as we all know, The Inconvenient Truth. And after seeing this movie, he actually made a major life-changing decision after seeing the movie. And as it implies in the movie, if environmental destruction continues as is, then there will be no future for our children, for our grandchildren. And he was inspired to do something to contribute to our following generations, and he established the Green School as a result. So through education and design, he has been very vocal in promoting sustainability, and he is also very focused on leaders that have this focus as well. Now, at this Green School, from 35 or more than 35 countries, starting with toddlers or up to high school students, a total of 420 students are learning at the Green School in Bali. And last year in August, the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon visited the Green School, and he learned of the mission of the school and how it wanted to nurture future green leaders, and he applauded the efforts that were being made. Now, in the year 2012, this school was awarded by USGBC as the most greenest school on Earth. So we now have these two prominent speakers on stage, and without further ado, we would like to first hear from both of them briefly on what their school is about. So we'll start off with Ms. Kobayashi. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I came from Karuizawa. My name is Lynn Kobayashi. When I woke up this morning, it was sub-zero and it was snowing, and I was wearing long boots, rain boots, but I was, to be on stage. And my PR, I borrowed a pair of shoes from PR, but looking at John's attire, maybe I should have worn my rain boots, regardless. So the mission of our school and why did we establish the school, first and foremost, as listed on the slide, not just here in Japan, but throughout Asia, Pan-Pacific. For a new global society, we wanted to create change makers that will establish a new frontier. Now, the definition of leaders, there are many, but we deem leaders as people that are the agent for change. And so what is this actually all about? So leaders have to first find problems, and they respect various diversified perceptions, and they can also coexist amongst this diversification, and at the same time they can overcome any obstacles and hurdles to create change. So just to recap, finding problems or finding issues. Now, it's very easy to say, but how do you actually go about finding problems? And I will elaborate throughout the panel, if I may, but you start from something very near you, something very small. Augmenting these experiences of change or innovation is important. And again, I would like to elaborate later on in the panel. Now, the second mission is accepting various values. Now, we only have our first students, 49 students from around the world, and they are actually were selected from candidates, a total of 233 from 22 countries, and we will have our next grade joining us as well. And so this will add to the diversification. But what's more important, when we say diversity, it's not just about the number of countries where these students come from. 50% of our students are learning under with scholarship programs. Historical differences, cultural differences, economic differences. There are so many background differences, and we are willing to accept all of that. This is my last slide. And do not be afraid of failure and overcome obstacles. And I believe this resonates with what John is trying to do. Through school, through classes, there is a limit to what can be taught. So the more you can learn outside through this residential school, through nature, and through everyday life, the students can learn from these little mistakes or failures. And bit by bit, they acquire success experiences as well. So I will omit the facts because I think I'm short of time, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kobayashi. I'm sure we'll have time to hear more of your explanations as the panel moves forward. So let's move on to Mr. Hardy. Can you talk about your Green School and view your presentation? Thanks.
The mic. Endless golf. Is that not why you are working so hard? We sold our business. I met Mr. Gore and his Inconvenient Truth. he ruined my life. No golf. No retirement. I realized I needed to do more. So my wife and I decided to give back locally in Bali. Build a school, a green school, and here it is. I knew I wouldn't figure this out. Click. Sorry. This is a little airplane that came through Green School, and it will give you a sense of what it looks like. Flew right in the door. We don't actually have a door, but this is Green School. It's a new concept. The students are smiling and practicing ancient Balinese martial arts in the mud. This is not a big hit with the mothers. Can children learn working with local artisans? Can children learn by doing? Can children learn by building? Or by planting rice and harvesting it and eating it brown? In the gardens, we have a group of local women who cook 700 meals a day. Fresh meals cooked with sawdust. Can students dream of graduating in a green bamboo hall? Build it in 3 days and celebrate their graduation with Jane Goodall to send them into the world? Yes, they can. Can a school with a 2-meter drop on the river make a vortex? Drop in a turbine invented by an Austrian? The solar panels are dancing in the chicken run and will be off the grid soon. And it's all made possible by local grass, bamboo. Bamboo has finally come of age. Green School Bali, it's 7 years old, 425 kids, more than 35 countries, classes from diapers to grade 12, and 10% of the kids are local kids on scholarship. The National Green Building Council came, and they couldn't find a place in LEED for Green School. So they had to make up an entirely new category. They named it simply Greenest School on Earth. So is Green School the future? I honestly don't know. But it may be a bridge to the future. So come visit, bring your children, have lunch. Let's create the future green leaders we so desperately need. And just down the river, we have bamboo houses waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. ジョンさんありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, John. So the bamboos are so grown and tall. It looks so different from the bamboos we see in Japan. It seems to be a very thick bamboos. So thank you very much to Ms. Kobayashi and Mr. Hardy, and thank you to the wonderful introductions. It's very different from the conventional schools. I think they're built on unique concepts. and foundations. So we have several discussion points prepared. What is your motivation behind the nurturing of growing leadership? So what is the leadership education that you have in mind? That is our first discussion point. I'm sure there were strong determinations involved and the motivations. Maybe motivation can be rephrased as sort of what are the values that you base your decision upon building such unique skills. So can you explain about your motivations, your drive, the sense of issues that were important to you? Maybe each of you can comment on this.
I hated school. I failed. The grades started at A and ended at F. I would get G's. I was the last person in the world to ever think of starting a school. When I was in grade 1, my teacher said to me, she took my pencil away because I couldn't make those proper circles with my hand, and said, I can see something in your hand and it's not a pencil, it's a hoe. She was dooming me to a life of field work in Canada. So school was pretty tough for me. And making a school has been a complete dream. The idea is to make room for all the kids. And I honestly don't believe that you remember much that you heard at the front of the room. What really makes an education is what happened, who you met, what you did, what you experienced. That's my motivation to build Green School, is to create experience, education that's local, that's all about learning by doing.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. Maybe we may go to Ms. Kobayashi. I have two very important experiences, but I'll talk about the second one because of lack of time. But as you've introduced, from 2006 to 2008, I've had the honor of working with UNICEF in Philippines, the most impoverished group of kids, the street children who could not go to school, the informal education of the street children. And that itself has been a very rewarding experience for me. They live in a family of 14 or 15, and if one can learn to ride, they can. That person can become a taxi driver or work in a restaurant, and that one person's income can nourish the full family. But when living in Philippines for the first time in my life, the rich and the poor, and this inequality and some of the corruption that was involved in some of the offices, I saw that and experienced that, and the society I felt needed to be changed from its foundation. And can it change? That was my question, the question that I had. And then I thought that it's important to teach the impoverished kids, but we also need to change the society and to nurture people who can be the change makers. That's my motivation. ありがとうございます。
大きなその
Thank you very much. So both of the experiences were very valuable, and something that does not lead all of us to build new schools. But Mr. Hardy, you said you didn't enjoy school, and it must have been very tough to start everything from scratch. So in establishing the school, I'm sure you spent a lot of time and there were a lot of struggles and difficulties. Maybe you can share some of the difficulties, struggles involved, something that happened after the process or during the process of education. You need to attract teachers, and maybe you can't comment on all the aspects, but if you can share some of the challenges involved with establishing the school. Maybe we can start from Ms. Kobayashi.
Okay, so I'll start. I took 6 years, a full 6 years, and I prepared and prepared and prepared. And after a lot of struggles, it just turned out that it was 6 years. I was planning to establish the school in 2 years, but it took 6 years. So ever since the inception of the idea, it took 7 years. So what was the biggest obstacle or struggle? I mean, there were so many. The list is extremely long, but maybe 3 I would like to highlight. The first, registration or certification of the school itself. 70%, 80% of the students are from abroad. 90% of the teachers are non-Japanese, and everything is taught in English. And half the students are receiving scholarships. So to be accredited as a higher education institution was extremely difficult. Another was finding the land, because it is a full residential school. So a total of 150 students, a very small school, 3 grades. But on top of that, we needed dorms as well, residential space, which means we needed vast, vast real estate. So it is Karuizawa. Isaac is the abbreviation, but we just could not find the land in the Tokyo area. So maybe Kamakura or Kyoto, because it started with a K, or Konamachi and Chiba. As long as it was the land was named with a K, we were very desperate. But anyways, the third struggle was funding. For a new school, we cannot borrow, so we have to provide the funds. So obviously, it was a large, large amount of money that we needed to collect. Now, I was interviewed by a TV program the other day, and I was asked, how many did you actually solicit? And I counted the name cards, and I've met maybe 4,500, and 2,500 to 3,000 people actually we requested donations for the school. And 100 gave us major donations. So in other words, 2,800 said no. And I know I'm going on, but the trigger to all of this was the small early success, which we often say in the venture world. You know, billions and billions for a school, but, nothing was happening. So we were, again, very desperate. And maybe, I don't know, some sort of a summer school. And that actually caught the eye of many people. And the first graduates of the summer school, the mothers, the parents became the first donors, and then word of mouth, it spread and spread. So that's why we managed to establish the school. I see. Thank you. So you're also a very good, talented salesperson as well. So, John, so you love ballet? And I know you love ballet, but nevertheless, I'm sure there were struggles, so please.
I'll just tell 2 little short stories. We were building the classrooms, and I realized if the classrooms had walls, we'd have to have air conditioning, and we didn't have enough power generation to have air conditioning, so we have fans. But the educator said there must be walls, and the architect said there must be walls. And I said, why? They said, well, there must be walls. And I said, no, tell me, why do we have to have walls? Because we want to have the breeze come through. The educator said, we must have some place to display the children's art. And I said, that's why you need walls. How big is the art? He said, mostly it's 9 by 11. I said, I'll talk to you about walls later. Green School doesn't have any walls, but we are displaying the art. And the second thing that happened was a real tragedy. Green School was wobbling along. People didn't think it should happen. It had 97 students. There's, a lot of superstition in the world and also in Bali. And what happened was the Green School got wiped out by global warming. The first thing we built was the bridge across the river, the beautiful bridge I showed you. And we got record rains, huge trees came down the river. They got caught on the rocks. The water built up, and it pushed through and tore the 22-meter bamboo bridge off, and it was found somewhere in Denpasar. And I was in London, of course, and when the phone rings in the middle of the night, a lot of things go through your mind. And it was my daughter on the phone, and she said, Daddy, the bridge is gone. And people really felt that was an omen. It meant that Green School wasn't meant to be. Fortunately, the chairman of the board built a new bridge and made a declaration. He said, every time global warming wipes out this bridge, I'll rebuild it. And that's the only place we can be in the world of disaster. The bridge is there. When you come, you can visit the bridge. We have a tour every day at 2:30, 363 days of the year.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. I know we have only a limited amount of time, and since we have both Lynn and John has come all the way from Bali. Lynn, you've traveled from Karuizawa. So we do want to ask the audience if you have any questions. So before we open the floor, we're not closing yet, but maybe a quick message to the audience. So, Lynn, go ahead, please. Okay, so I'll be short and brief. A minute, I think. I'll use a minute. So I'll just sort of give you some words that I bide. Alain, which is a French philosopher, was the author of the book Happiness, and being optimistic is a state of mind. In other words, there may be personal issues and negative elements in front of you. But I know it's just a spur-of-the-moment emotion that causes this negative emotion, because from there onwards, can you illustrate an optimistic future? It is a commitment. It is a decision that you intentionally make to create an optimistic world. And we're talking of leadership right now. There are skills and techniques and so forth, but it boils down to mentality, I think, at the end of the day. Thank you. And John, please.
I'm a little short on philosophy. You can imagine how I did in philosophy class. I got an F. I liked it. So I guess all I can say to you is you're in the big city, and I know a lot of you have children, and there's an opportunity to take them somewhere and have something affect their lives. We've had children in green school as little time as 3 months. And the one I'm thinking of went back to her school. Her dad had an accident and they had to return to America, and went back to her school that was run by nuns. It was a 150-year-old school. Very nice school. And she was 11 years old, and she started a campaign to compost. I'm sure you all know what composting is, right? And the nuns were not amused. They almost expelled her. But my favorite picture is her standing beside 2 giant bins. The school had been there for 150 years, and now it's composting. So that's all I can dream of, is the kids going back into the world and making a difference. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございます。この
Thank you very much. And we are focusing throughout this session how we can change the world and how we can innovate new leadership. So society consists of people and things and information. And when we think about this, this is all created by people. The originator of all of these are people. And one of the key words that we are hearing throughout the sessions is IoT, Internet of Things, and it's, again, about people. People are the most important asset, and it is basically everything. So educating people and education is an extremely important theme, common to all of us. The structure and the framework for education as well, for humanity, is the most, again, important infrastructure for society as well. On the contrary, because education is such an important infrastructure for society, it becomes a bit stagnant at times. And we are in the midst of tremendous change. And innovation and change is becoming very difficult. And you were discussing accreditation of the institution, and I fully agree that there are difficulties, which means that through this ever-changing times, the education system right now is not on par with what is needed because it takes time to change education and the framework for education, and that is why we are seeing schools like your schools. And I believe that this session has proven to be an opportunity for meeting you for the first time. And I also do believe that it is a means and ways to feel hands-on what is happening and what is happening in terms of social change. And the two of you are embarking on a new endeavor to change. Your entrepreneurship as well as your commitment to change is something that I do respect highly. Thank you very much for your contribution.
それではですね、終わりではありませんので。
So we have not ended. Let's invite questions from the floor. So please raise your hand. And yes, I think you're the first one with your hand up. Thank you very much for your valuable sharing of experiences. Three questions to Ms. Kobayashi. One, after you graduated from Stanford and you worked at a very prominent foreign capital company, and why would you leave all that great resume experience and launch into this field? And then second, why you've already spoken to 4,500 people and tried to raise funds for school. You have such career. Why? I mean, I'm sure you had avenues to go back to your previous career if you wanted to. Why did you stick with it? That's my second question. Third question. Both of the specialists come from, both built lovely, beautiful schools, but then it has wide acreage and you provide, Lynn-san, you said you give 50% of your students scholarships. Is it sustainable fund-wise? So if you can describe your business model that would allow for you to give scholarships to 50% of your students. Thank you. So the first and second question has the same answer. Why I ended up here where I am and why I didn't give up. So I met this project when I was age 34, and I felt that this was the reason, my mission for life, the reason for my existence. So I'll just cut it short. But I've actually ended up leaving the high school in Japan, and I've dropped out, and I've been wondering for what my calling in life was, and I can't go into more because of the time shortage, but I felt this was my calling in life. The second part of the question about the scholarship, the land, that infrastructure part is given through the scholarship that was provided by the donors, and 1 out of 2 students receive scholarship, and scholarship comes from the so-called Furusato tax system, the tax system that the taxpayers can choose to give to the scholarship. So if you look up the municipality tax, the page of Karuizawa office, you can select, taxpayers can choose to pay into the scholarship for our school. So that is a scholarship funding that comes from the taxpayers. I will work hard to contribute. Thank you. So maybe we can get a question for Mr. Hardy. Okay, right here, this person with blue shirt over there. Yes. I have a question for Mr. Hardy. Nurturing and education, what is your definition of educating people?
Wow. Really a good question. I may fail this question. I think it's experiential. That's why we're pushing toward learning by doing. If I think about myself, I didn't have many opportunities. And if it had been education, I would have never gotten anywhere. But I went out in the world, I met people, I experienced things, I found things. So it was all doing and moving. I started a jewelry business with 6 people in the kitchen, and 3 of them were cooks. So it was just a matter of building step on step. What was the question? Education is what we experience. It isn't necessarily held in square rooms with square desks. It's held in the world.
はい、ありがとうございます。アイザックのスチューデントの手が挙がってますんで。
All right, a student from Isaac around there.
はい、お願いします。
Hello, everybody. My name is Chang, and I'm from International School of Karuizawa, Isaac. So I have today. I'm really honored for me to come here and attend the conference. And I have a question for Mr. John Hardy. That is, what do you think about using technology for education in your school? And how can you be sure that students are learn not from their own experience, but also from the other people experience from around the world? Thank you.
3 minutes left. That's a really easy question. Thank you very much. We believe in both. We just got a 10K or 100K line into the school, so we are so connected to the world. And think about it. No matter what the curriculum is that's happening at the front of the class, anybody in the classroom with a smartphone can know more opinions, more up-to-date information. So it's no longer about dispensing bits of information. It's about taking those children and guiding them through that maze of information, mentoring them, and teaching them how to sort the information. It's not a matter of I'm going to tell you 6 words and you have to write them down on a test or you can't be here anymore. It's really a journey. What was the rest of the question? Thank you. I need a coach here. Thank you for the question. That was great. 2 minutes left.
手早くだとあと1問。
Maybe one more question if it's a quickie. Last question. Maybe if you can shorten it, that'd be great. Question for Mr. Hardy. Thank you so much for your speech today. How many, or if any, do you have Japanese students at Green School? And as a Japanese, I'm interested, what are their personalities within the diverse student group? How do they fit in, and how do you see them? What would you aspire for them? How would you like to see them grow up?
We've had Japanese children since the very beginning. And what happens is their English skills go through the roof. Their Indonesian experience goes through the roof. And they really become students of the planet. And it's an amazing experience. It's amazing to see them. But we'll probably turn them green too. So that's the bottom line.
はい、ありがとうございました。それでは。
Thank you very much. Because of the time constraints, we'd like to wrap up and here. Thank you so much to Ms. Kobayashi and Mr. Hardy. Thank you. Let's give them a great big round of applause. Thank you so much.